Shalom, when the star of souls, but giving no praise to Yahweh, Ba'Shem El Shah, Ba'Shem Kadash, double honors to the apostle, great Moses, and honors to brothers doing the work of the Most High in truth and in sincerity. Yahweh's real name, over whom the world ignorantly calls God, Jehovah, or Yahweh. His real name is Yahweh. And the Son's true name is Yahweh Shai. And when we pray Yahweh, Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai, Ba meaning in, meaning the, and Sham meaning names, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai. Just wanted to do a quick one, man. It's been an interesting week so far. Been a very interesting week so far. Of course, started off with the death of the so-called Pope, right? Where basically, one thing I found interesting was the kind of world leaders that saw him just before his death. You had King Charles. I think he said 12 days before he died, and I believe he was a J.D. Vance. Saw him basically just before he died, and then the fact as well that he died on so-called, was it Easter Sunday or Easter Monday or whatever, nonsense, that is, right? And then I didn't pull it up, but let me just prepare it in my other screen, right? Because I'd remembered, which I don't know particularly too much, about that side of things, right? But I remembered Darbu 7, right, had basically done a vid like a while back, when he first got sick, right, about this idea of a last, bring it in here, right, this idea of, say, just a last pope, right? You're saying that this is the the last spot that they have in what do you call it, in wherever this is in the Vatican, right? So I found that interesting as well. Like I said, that's not something I'm particularly, too much aware of. But that's it. Because one of the things we've been commanded to do is to watch, right? Is to watch, pray, observe these things, right? This is Mark 13:33. Take ye heed, watch and pray, for you know not when the time is, right? So it's certainly one of the things that we've been, it's poignant. Let's say is very, very poignant, and like I said, once again, something that we just have to keep an eye on. I'm just looking for something as well, but I can't find it. Where did I see it? Oh well. Anyway, but yeah, man. So that was very interesting. And then, like, on the same day, you then had the founder of the WEF basically stepping down. Now from Politico, they're saying that there is a probe into misconduct, right? So that's going to be interesting to to see what happens after the fact. But even still, so it's just, he established this organization 1971. So once again, that's one of those years that is to us, it's a time period that that we look at, right, because it has spiritual significance, right? So down 1 and 4, though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, and though thou set thy nest among the stars, then shall I bring thee down, right? And when did Esau try and set his nest among the stars, right? Around 1969, right, with the Apollo missions, okay, right? And then even when you read some of the other precepts, 3 days and a half, right, and the half, so that represents 250 years. And when did that end? That ended around 1970 as well, right? So ever since then, the once again, that 1970 period is very much something of interest to us. So even because it's the first time I'm finding this at 1971 that this WEF was founded. Okay, you see people will now get rid of the IMF and all other corporate organizations. But these people don't understand, right? Is these organizations are there for a reason, right? They're part of Esau's secret council, right, of the wicked, right? This is Psalms 64. It says, and 2, it says, hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked, from the insurrection of the workers of iniquity, right? And we don't know what goes on in these meetings. Yeah, they may have bits where the media are allowed in, right? But the truth is, we don't know what happens after the fact. Okay, so that's what is meant by these secret councils, right? It says Job 5:14, they meet with darkness in the daytime and grope in the noonday as in the night. So everything they do is in darkness, right? But this truth is doing what? It's shining a light on their wickedness. However, um, uh, 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 that's one of the reasons why E is coming down on this thing, right? Because we're exposing him through the not of ourselves, but through the spirit of Yahweh Shem Shai, right? And like a dog barked in or a beast backed into a corner, he's trying to bite. Okay. So yeah, well, that was also interesting. These two things happening. These two things have basically happening on the same day. Um, to and then all everything that's kind of happening in the world anyway, right? One thing that we do know for sure is that the time is short, right? This is this really is this really is the the end of this man's kingdom, right? Everything that we're kind of seeing is alluding to that, right? Even the fact that the King Charles, even he's not allegedly not well enough to go and to go to this funeral, right? So it's the second Ezra 9:1. It says, he answered me then and said, measure thou the time diligently in itself, and when thou seest part of the signs pass, which I told thee before, then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time when the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. And that's what we're basically seeing right now is, if your eyes are open, the Most High is starting to open up on this place, right? It even goes and say, therefore, when they shall be seen earthquakes, right? And we just had 6.2 in Turkey yesterday, right? And uproars of the people in the world, right? It seems like everyone right now is pissed off, is annoyed, whatever, and we're gonna start seeing more and more of these people going out and protesting, right? As these elites start pushing the squeeze, right? Which they're designing the squeeze, right? But when they start pushing it more and more, right, you go and start seeing more and more of these uproars, right? Even in places that are so called, more civilized, right? Like just in the same way, like what was it, like last summer, right, where they just put the spirit on these guys to just start, with these so-called race riots that happened last summer. Okay, so verse 4 says, then shall that well understand the Most High spake of those things, right, from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning, right? So all of these things have been prophesied to happen, right? The workers, in darkness, right? The, the neighbor not having pity on each other, right? So many, different examples, basically, right, of just the hell that's about to break loose. Right? And why is hell about to break loose? Because the Most High wants it to break loose. Right? Because it is the time of testing. Right? We are entering into the time of Jacob's trouble. Right? I'll start from Jeremiah 30. Right? It says from 6 is, ask ye now and see whether a man doth travail with child. Wherefore do I see every man with his hands on his loins as a woman in travail, and all faces turned into paleness. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, right? And that's especially when they start pushing this MOTB, right? That's going to be the height of Jacob's trouble. But we're already there, right? We're already in in the midst of Jacob's trouble, right? But it going to get as the apostles give the example, you ain't gonna ask when we're in Jacob's trouble. You're gonna know it, okay? So yeah, but one thing that I've always kind of observed with these scriptures that talk about these end times is the fact that there's always a thing of like, yeah, it's a time of Jacob's trouble, but the elect shall be safe, right? The elect shall be protected, right? Let me see, laws what I can remember. Let me see if I can find it. Let me see. The ungodly is the precept right here. Basically, just going into how the things that are to come, right? They ain't for the men of the Lord, right? They're for uh slut. Yeah, I might have looked past it, but scriptures talk about how these things that are to happen, right, are for for the. I'm gonna let me look on the Google actually. Uh, yeah, I can't find it. Can't find it. Oh well, but yeah. So I mean, the point is still there, right? The things that are to come, right? The punishment, all of the judgments. The judgments are set for the ungodly. They're not set, for the righteous, right? The righteous, the Lord is going to make a way for the righteous. So let's finish that off, right? It says Jeremiah 13:7, alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. Right, and then Daniel 12, right? It says, and at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince which standeth for the children of thy people. Right. So, the elect, they're gonna have, a protection, a guard, right? In fact, we can also read that in Isaiah the 59th chapter, right, and 19. It says, so shall they fear the name of Yahweh from the west, and his glory from the rising of the sun. When the enemy shall come in like a flood, the spirit of Yahweh shall lift up a standard against him. So the Lord is gonna, when he starts, coming down, the Lord is gonna, counteract him, right, through the spirit. So it says, back in Daniel 12, it says, and at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince will stand for the children of thy people, and there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to the same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book. So you're gonna have those that are, that are destined for destruction, but the elect ultimately will be saved through all of this. Okay, so that's why we look forward to the end of this man's kingdom. That's why when we read articles like this and this, we get excited because we're like, okay, they think things are moving, chess is being played. So that's one of the things we're just we're looking for and we're observing, right? And it's certainly interesting, right? One thing to some things just to keep an eye on and see where they lead. So as always, that was edifying. Till next time, say shalom.